Hey everyone, I'm Jeff Whelan, the host of the WB Download, and I want to invite you and welcome you to our podcast. My brother and I own and operate Whelan Builders. It's a custom home building company here in Southwest Ohio. The WB Download mostly focuses on interviewing folks associated with custom building. We stray now and then to interview people who I think are interesting and to break up the monotony of the same old podcast. I also like to highlight things that are going on in my everyday life along with our businesses. I started this podcast to help people understand the custom builder world, but to also give people a chance to hear what others have to say and highlight their expertise and experiences in life. We drop on the second and fourth Tuesday of each month with a new topic and or guest each time. I hope you join us here on the WB Download and enjoy listening and hearing stories of people in and out of the custom builder world. Welcome to the WB Download. All right. Well, hello again, everybody. I'm Jeff Whelan here with WB Download. Thanks for joining in. Today is Tuesday, April the 8th, 2024. Man, I tell you what, here we are, springtime. So it feels anyway. Today it was 33 degrees this morning, and tomorrow night it's going to be 25. After we've had some really, this is just I don't know. I know I always talk about the weather when we get on here, but it's just stupid. I don't know what the heck is going on. So anyway, hey, you guys, I hope everybody saw the Cincinnati Reds parade. It's local here anyway. It was on the news, and then we had different videos of it. You could still look it up online if you wanted to. But our float, it was representing the Savannah Bananas coming to Cincinnati, was called Go Bananas. And when Cody and I were kind of wrapping it up there earlier in that week, we thought, man, this is a lot of work to go through for a mediocre float. And when we finally got it put together, and I think I said this the last time, when we finally got it put together, got down to the parade route, and we finally put all the stuff on it. And we did, it really turned out cool. I mean, just so cool. It was so great. If we don't win something, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I shouldn't jinx it like that, but it was really neat. I never knew. So we had over, I think it was almost close to 1,000 bananas in there that we were like pretending like we were selling as Findlay Market. And I never knew that bananas were so popular. Everybody wanted a banana. In fact, people took bananas, and didn't even ask. It's amazing, the ignorance of people when you're in the general public, but, everybody wanted a banana. And I feel like saying, hey, if you were at home, do you think you'd still want a banana? But the Go Bananas float, for 2025 was awesome. And we all had a great time. And we're looking forward to doing it again next year when we are looking at our 10th anniversary next year to do the parade. We had some memories pop up from 10 years ago, and so this year was our 9th year, and from 10 years ago. So today or yesterday, I think it was. There was a couple years where we didn't do it. I think and with the COVID crap, they didn't let us do it. And then for 2021, we were on our Builder 20 and spring break, and we had like 10 things that all fell in the same time, and we couldn't do it in 21, but we've done it the remaining years. And it's become a legacy. It's become a tradition for the company. It's something that I feel is important and fun to do with everybody. But I don't know. I don't know if everybody else feels that way. I don't really care for that matter. So anyway, let's talking about the weather here. I'm always talking about how this year, last year was a drought in 2024, and as we came into wintertime, it was the most cold days we've had since, I can't remember, somebody else said what the year was. This is the longest we've had snow on the ground for many, many years. And then when we come into springtime here, we just had like our rain gauge at home was filled on Saturday morning at 6.5 inches. So I think we had 7 or 8 inches from Thursday to Sunday, or Wednesday to Sunday, which is a lot of rain, and it just makes it miserable to farm and to build in. But we also, in a previous week, we had some tornadoes touch down. We had a lot of high winds. We had a lot of stuff going on around here that's just, I don't remember the threat of tornadoes being so much in all my life than it has been in the last couple of years, especially through the Ohio Valley here. But it, it's done some damage around here. Luckily, knock on wood, thank God that we haven't had any at our place, but we know our neighbors have. There's been some other things happening where you've seen some damage. So the weather has been nuts. And so as soon as it gets a day like today where the sun starts shining, everybody expects us to pop up and start doing some work again and getting some things done. I do too, because I'm unrealistic like a lot of people are. But it takes a long time for these things to dry out, and I'm not sure when it's going to dry out at this point. But we're going to work through it. So I'm getting ready to leave to go to our Builder 20 group this coming weekend, and we are in Wilmington, North Carolina, visiting Conradi Custom Homes down there, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So the spring meeting is our financial meeting, which means that we all have turned in all of our financials for the year, which this group is a very secluded group, very confidential group. And we all know how much money each other makes. We all know how much money each one of our employees makes. We know how much savings we have. We know where all of our, whatever investments we have. Every single thing that you want to know about a business, we all know about each other. So in our financial meeting, we combine everything through our National Association of Home Builders. We have charts, and we show how much dollar volume we did last year, what our gross percentage of profit was, our net percentage of profit, and then we get into where we spent the money on marketing, on supervisor salaries, on all these different things, vehicles and fuel, and every single detail is just picked apart. And our goal is to become better business people, better builders. But if I'm the only one in the entire group that's spending $150,000 on marketing and everybody else is spending $10,000 on marketing, then I need to change what I'm doing. I need to figure out what these guys are doing. Same thing if I'm the only one in the group that is got a 50% gross margin. Well, then there's some numbers that are wrong. Something's screwed up, and we have to go back through and dig in to figure out what that is. This is so important. And you heard David Dree say it on this podcast. I say it all the time. You've got to know your numbers, and this meeting here is really, really important for that. Comparing yourself to some of the greatest builders in the country, across the country, and those guys, I feel like some of those guys are in our group for sure, and so it's a challenge, but I also look forward to it because I want to be better all the time, and this group helps us be better. I'm looking forward to this. I was looking forward to it. Shannon's unable to go because we had a hard time getting somebody to watch our kids, but usually it's a time for Shannon and I to get away together. We get to explore and see these cool places that we wouldn't normally go to. We get to see other builders' products that are just so cool. They do such a great job, and it makes me want to come home, be fired up, and step up our game and do better job all the time. But also down there in Wilmington, one of my high school classmates, she lives down there, her and her family. So I'm going to get to spend some time with them. And I have another classmate that lives in South Carolina, and I think she's going to come up, and we've all known each other almost all of our lives. So we're going to get a chance to hang out and see each other. So I'm looking forward to that. Builder 20 is great in so many different ways, not just the camaraderie through the group, but we get to visit places that we wouldn't normally go to and on a vacation or for any random reason. So, and we get to see those other really, really cool builders do some cool things. So, anyway, so today I'm going to jump right to it. I'm going to skip through some things because I want to jump into the podcast, but, we've got a great guest for you today. Today is none other than my friend, and I feel confident calling him my friend because it's Ryan Murphy from Murphy Insurance. Ryan is also our insurance agent here at Wheelan Builders. And I think we're going to talk through the importance of insurance and the importance of the relationship with the builder and their insurance agent. But I tell you what, I start the conversation out with him with saying, hey, I think that part of the thing that drives me in my life and the things that are happening and around me are because I've got some really awesome people that I've surrounded myself with in my life. And Ryan is one of them. You've heard some from other friends of mine here on the podcast, from Matt Smith and at SiteWorks and a lot of different people who keep me going, who help me, who inspire me, who are really good people. And I think that's what it takes. I'm constantly talking to Cody and Raina about surrounding yourself with good people. And if there's kids that are being jerks to them right now in school, not to worry about it, because there's going to be great people that are going to be in your life and making sure you're paying attention to that all the time. So Ryan is one of those people. And in our Builder 20 group, these guys have said for years that your insurance agent, your CPA, and your lawyer all need to be people who are you're consulting with, and they need to be coming to you and talking to you about the things that are going on in the insurance world, or the laws and the codes and the different things that go along with accounting, and they need to be talking to us because they're on our team. They need to have our best interest in mind. And Ryan is one of those people. And you know, I mean, if you're just buying insurance for your car, then you're probably shopping prices, and that's about it. For us, insurance is so important. Just even with our subcontractor agreement that we have with every one of the trade partners that we work with. Ryan is the person who I send that to and say, hey, here, what needs to go in here? What language needs to get changed? And then I send it to my attorney and say, hey, what do you think about this? What needs to be changed in here? You know, we have to have agreements with our subcontractors through these trade agreements, but it also talks about their insurance and the insurance that they need to carry. We are additionally insured on everyone's insurance throughout our trade partners. On our liability insurance, we have builder's risk insurance that we are carrying for our customers and naming them as additionally insured on it. And all of these things have parameters in which they're covered. So it's not like I have insurance and I can just go out there and start building and I don't have anything to worry about. Good Lord, that would be too easy. You know, but it is a huge part of our everyday business. And without this relationship with Ryan, I just don't know what I do. But most importantly, as you get through this podcast, you're going to find out what a cool cat he is and the cool things he's done in his life. Now, Ryan is somebody who knows everybody in Southwest Ohio. But he's also lived a really cool life and experienced some cool things. And I can't say enough about this old boy. So I hope you guys enjoy this. I certainly did, and do. And I enjoy, and I learn more about him just like I do with everybody we interview, on this podcast. But, I think you're going to find out how important it is to have an insurance agent like Ryan, protecting your business. So anyway, without further ado, let's bring him on in here. This is Ryan Murphy with Murphy Insurance. All right. Like I said, today's guest is none other than my good friend, Mr. Ryan Murphy, Southwest Ohio's Mr. Popular, I guess I should say, from the West Side. Welcome to the show, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you for having me.
Man, I tell you what, I think I was thinking about this morning, and I generally base my life on like whatever I've done. How did I end up here? And if I look around me and I think, man, I've been surrounded by some pretty awesome people. And then maybe that's what drove me. Maybe I was just like, that's a goal to put. But you're one of those people that I've been around for several years now. I don't know how many years. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. But man, I'm grateful that you took time out of the day, but time before today to be here.
Hey, happy to be here. It's I feel the same way about you. It's like a bromance, right?
It is. It is. I mean, I do enjoy it. So why don't we? I was going to ask you about yourself, but I want to know: were you doing business with my mom and dad before I got here, or did you and I do the business? And we started this deal.
It was your mom and dad.
Oh God, come on. He's listened to this, and now he's got a big head. Now he's like, yeah, there you go.
I think it was more Sue than your dad, so we'll give her the credit.
We know that,
right?
We know that. So, because I remember it was like you. So now that I know how insurance works, like in my older years, I think it was Westfield, right? That we probably would have been the insurance company before it was Cincinnati.
Yep.
And we went through you guys.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we switched it. You were with Westfield. I don't know with who. I think it started. I mean, my dad's always known your dad and family, good timers or who knows who. And they were on their annual trip to Seven Springs, and Dad never took the bus. So I think Jack rode up or back with him or something, and they got shooting the shit. And one thing led to another, and we came in. It was when you were back on Boy Mel, probably first couple of years on Boy Mel. Yeah. And economy was not real awesome back then. So that's when everything kind of came together.
So now that you tell me that would have been like 2005, 6, 7, somewhere in there. I would have had to been responsible for that, Ryan. I'm just telling you.
We'll give you partial credit.
I thought you guys were established when I got here in '97, and I don't think that was the case. I think it was you and I, and they were like, you know what, we should put these two together. They're going to do some good things.
Dynamite.
And that's what we did. Yeah, it's dynamite.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. I mean, what about your family, your background, your kids, your wife, whatever you got going on?
I think we're about the same age. I'm 49.
Yeah.
Grew up, went to St. Ignatius, went to LaSalle High School, played football, basketball, track, went on to University of Illinois, played football. that was 4.5, 5 years, came back and, got into the insurance business. I really didn't have a choice. I did. I mean, there was other choices, but, everyone back there was going to Chicago and all these other places. And I didn't know that, I was going to end up where I ended up, but I knew it was I had an in, cause it's the same way my dad started, and it was a good company and everyone thought highly of it. So I guess in 98, 99, I went to work for Cincinnati Insurance Company as a pre-hire, not having any insurance background through college or anything like that. I was just a I started out as a football player. Like, oh, what are you going to do? Finance. And you get up to Illinois, and I mean, that's a different ball game up there.
Really?
I mean, econ and all that. I mean, in these large auditoriums, it was way out of these were professional students, and I obviously was not. So I'm like, what the hell am I going to do? And Dad said, well, if you're going to go into insurance, you don't need a financial, a degree in econ or finance or anything like that. He said, get a general degree with some business classes or whatever. So that's what I did. That's what most of the football players ended up doing. It was kind of a easy way to get a degree or not too challenging.
So let's talk about football.
Okay.
I mean, who gives a shit about insurance, right? I mean, I'm always interested in this because I think it takes such a discipline. No matter what you think of people who play professional sports or college sports, it takes such a discipline to be able to do that. Mm-hmm. So did you get a scholarship to go play it? And so you were a linebacker, right?
Defensive end.
Defensive end. I was close, but so I mean, you're when I was done playing football in high school, I think I was done. I was like, man, I felt like I was 90 years old. I mean, I just had shit beat out of me. Of course, we were in Ross. We had leather helmets, and like one bar across the front. We weren't at LaSalle. But I mean, so for you to continue to go on and do that, what was it like? Like, were you recruited by more than one school, and did you have to make a decision? And were you like, did you ever see that movie Johnny Be Good? I mean, was it cool? I mean, was it an experience?
It was neat. It was stressful. But I got recruited by, pretty much everyone, but back then it was more, Midwest, I guess you'd say.
Yeah.
Not a ton of SEC schools, I guess down to, Tennessee, maybe Auburn back then, but most of it was, he's a Midwest guy. He's going to the Big Ten. And back then the Big Ten was the power conference. And it was all big, heavy guys, run the football, very little throwing. And, it was the conference to be in. In hindsight, you go back and it's like, we're playing in these cold ass temperatures at 11 in the morning because the Big Ten network or whatever, where, and I'm freezing my butt off during the football season. But down in the South, they're wearing shorts and got, pretty girls walking around all the time, and they don't play till night. I was like, where did we screw this deal up? And
where was my thought process?
The SEC figured that out before long, and they returned to dominance. But I could have went anywhere in the Big Ten, with the exception, I don't think Michigan offered me. Notre Dame was where my grandpa was a Notre Dame guy, and being a Catholic high school guy, Notre Dame was the the place that you really wanted to go. But back then they hired the number one defensive end recruit in the country out of Texas. So they didn't need, Ryan Murphy. So I could have went anywhere, as an 18-year-old kid, which is kind of how I look at, the way that grade school kids now are deciding on these high schools. As an 18-year-old kid, it was tough. I mean, it was stressful because they're calling you, they're telling you all these great things. And that was tough as 18. So I can't imagine what these 13 and 14-year-old kids are going through, trying to decide what high school they're going to. But it's funny, not funny, but one of the guy that recruited me the hardest was Joe Paterno out of Penn State.
Really?
And the guy that actually...
Thank God you didn't end up there.
Well, guess who the recruiter was? The guy that made the news.
Really?
And he recruited me. He was smooth, and he was a salesman,
apparently.
And he could sell more than that. But he made the stuff he told me was, I was the greatest thing since sliced bread. I was this, I was that, and I didn't end up going there just because in hindsight, you always hindsight's 2020. They were loaded, but it was, I think it's 8 or 11 hour drive, and I wanted to be closer to, so my parents could come to all the games without real struggle. And Champaign was 3 hours away, straight across 74. The coaches at Illinois had a relationship with the coaches at LaSalle. We ran a similar defense, and back then, Illinois was getting ready to take off. We had all the talent in the world. We had the second and third overall draft picks behind Keyshawn Johnson. Simeon Rice and Kevin Hardy both went 2 and 3. We had back-to-back Butkus winners. Dana Howard he's the all-time leading tackler in the Big Ten. We were ready. They had just beat Michigan. We were ready to take off. And it didn't work out that way, but everyone's like, how did you end up at Illinois? And it just...
just that good.
Right? Purdue recruited me. Purdue was we had 2 guys I played with that both played at Purdue, and they were another one that, I was definitely considering, but the guy that was recruiting me got food poisoning and ended up in the hospital and kind of ghosted me one weekend, which is not his fault. But had that gone through and I visited, I might have ended up at Purdue, but whatever. It all worked out.
It's amazing how different things like that happen, and that's how you end up there. So was your dad helping you, or did you guys have an agent or something, so to speak?
It's just
coaches?
The coaches come into your, they call you, they send you letters. Coaches would come into your house, and it was a guy named Lou Tepper was the head coach back then. He was a nice guy, I don't know, you want to call him homely or what, but just, the parents eating out of his hand when he came in, because he said all the right things. Education, your degree's important. He was real big on, racial unity. He did some neat things, where, the black guys on the team and the white guys on the team, we'd shared rooms during camp and on the road, everything the parents wanted to hear. And not that he didn't lie or he wasn't mistrustful. It's just some of those things weren't as important as recruiting, big, mean football players that play football. And ultimately it didn't end up working out for him. But that's who he was, the head coach back then. And then there was a guy named Denny Marson who he's an old Miami, Ohio guy. And when he played, I think he said he walked into the coach's room and it was Woody Hayes and I think it was Earl Bruce were in a fist fight on Woody's desk, just because that's the way things were. So he was a local guy. He recruited Cincinnati. That was kind of his, he had a background from Miami, Ohio, and he knew how to network all those people. And he was a good guy that all the parents and coaches loved to talk to too. He's a real character. Yeah. So it just ended up working out that way. Everyone, why didn't you go to Ohio State? And Ohio State recruited me and, basically told me I was a dumbass for not going there. But growing up, when you and I were growing up, Ohio State was Ohio State, but they weren't what they are now.
It was a state school, right? Essentially. It wasn't the Ohio State.
Right. Yeah. And I just there was no traction. There was nothing sticky for me. I didn't grow up knowing about the horseshoe, wanting to play in the horseshoe, anything like that. And there was just nothing really sticky there, and everything at Illinois seemed like a fit. So that's what we did.
I went to the Ag School of Ohio State. I was there for 2.5 years and never even went to a football game. People are like, "Oh, I bet you're a huge fan." I'm like, I could give a shit less. I have a backpack that said Ohio State on it. Yeah. I think that was about it. And they want money from me for alumni, but I don't pay it. So I'm with you. I was just kind of a basic school. So how did you? I was talking to Alan Jr. and he was talking about like when his kids were playing baseball and volleyball. And the big promotional part of it was to put all of your stuff on what was Twitter then, and then you could get it out there. I mean, I know we're talking all about football, and we're not talking about anything about insurance. Who cares? So how did you get promoted? Was it your coaches that were promoting it, or how did you get noticed?
One of the greatest guys in my life was a head coach named Jim Lauder, and Jim basically left corporate America or small business, had done real well for himself, and came back and coached. Coach LaSalle, he played football with my dad or in that era. He was a Roger Bacon guy. He played at Xavier XU back when they had a football team. So did my dad. And he was he was an old Bron Basevich guy. And Bron was the legendary coach at Roger Bacon. And he took all those values and he instilled them in us. And he was just a role model, a leader, a great guy. But he also, anyone that was getting recruited in the city of Cincinnati, whether they went to X, Oak Hills, whatever, all the coaches knew to come to Jim Lauder, and he was a promoter. Whether it was all true or not, who knows? I mean, in the program, I was 6'4", 220, and ran a 4.4 or 4.5 or something like that. I was light, and that probably was a little bit stretched, but he did a good job promoting and had the connections. And then back then, there was little recruiting magazines and stuff like that, but those were all they found you. You didn't. There was no promoting like what they do now on Twitter and highlight films and stuff like that. Jim, I think, would go through. I mean, this is back in VHS tape days. Yeah. Jim would go through and make tapes for certain players and send them off to coaches, or they'd come in and he would say, you got to check this guy out. You got to check this guy out, so on and so forth. So there wasn't much to it. Those coaches back in the day, if Ohio State or Illinois played on a Saturday, all the coaches would leave and go to high school games on Friday nights across the country. You know, they each recruited a certain region and they'd come watch you.
Yeah.
You know, you'd look around and you had the coach from Kentucky there. You had a coach from Purdue, and they had to wear their stuff so people knew they were there. I mean, it's totally different rules than what it is now. But no, there was no, kind of was what it was. They were, and there was people that got missed because, you know, the communication, cell phones, you know, whatever. It was a different world than what we live in now. So it was all based on your merit statistics, and you know, GCL is still, you know, one of the best conferences in the you know, country.
Yeah.
So even back then, GCL was, you know, you had the Mullers, the X's, LaSalle. We put a lot of guys in Division I, and you played in the GCL. That was kind of like, all right, well, we know this is a legit league. So yeah, that was about it.
So if you're badass like that and you're at Ross, do you think you get the same opportunity?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
But you got to have off the chart statistics. You know, Mark Edwards was at Norwood, and he was Mr. Football this and that. It wasn't as good of a division, or, you know, wasn't Division I or anything like that, but you have to have stats like what he had to get noticed at a smaller school or a smaller conference.
Yeah.
You got to be huge. You got to have huge stats, or you got to really stand out. If not, you're just a good player in a lower conference is, you know,
right.
I guess the way they looked at it.
That was always a question I had, and I still have it today, because even in Lebanon, you know, that we had a guy that was a really good basketball player, and first thing he does is transfer out and go somewhere else, you know, that because he wants to play for Duke, he wants to go to the NBA, and I don't know, I kind of get twisted up about that because I'm an old West Side hometown guy, you know, and I think you should be proud of where you're from. And this is, you know, why don't you make Lebanon something instead of, you know, going and making somebody else something? And I get it. I mean, they're in business. They're in it for real. They're not in the backyard.
And he's got coaches telling him.
Talking to Coach Speck, you know, down at Xavier, he's like, you know, the first thing you need to do when you're talking about a local school like that is build a fence in your backyard. Don't let these kids out. You know, I mean, keep them there and let them play. Build a program and build off of that. And I know it's difficult because, you know, if I'm parent and my kid's really good and I've got Ryan Murphy as my son and he's going to go do things, you know, am I holding him back? You know, and that's the question you start asking yourself, I guess, for a town.
And that's I mean, these people that are selling you are probably alluding to that or telling you that or pointing you down that road. And, you know, as a dad that you want the best for Cody.
Yeah.
And if this is going to give him the best chance to succeed, you're at least going to listen to it or think about it.
I don't know. Yeah. I look at Cody and I think even if he's the greatest football player in the world, I want him to stay because I feel like he's a smart kid. This is me being a egotistical dad. I think he's a smart kid. I think he's going to work hard. I think he's going to be successful no matter what he does. And he's not going to make a career. Even if he goes to play football, it's 10 years of his life. He's going to have another 50 years to have to work or 40 years to have to work, you know? I don't know.
I'd say that's more.
I can say that from the outside looking in.
If I'm a realistic approach.
Yeah. If I'm in the middle of it, I'm probably different. You know, I'm probably Johnny Be Good. So let's talk about Sandra. Huh? Where'd you meet her at?
So we met on.
This is your wife, by the way.
Sandra. Yeah. We met. She went to the neighboring grade school, and Macaulay, the neighboring high school. I knew of her. We started dating. Senior trip, after everything was all said and done, she used to hang out with the older guys.
Yeah.
But when it's senior trip and you're both seniors, that's where we both ended up. So then we started dating right on senior trip. And then, of course, I went away for 4 or 5 years, and we dated, back and forth through then and moved back. And, I mean, before we were married, I think we were together for 20 years or something like that. So she's been putting up with me for a long time.
Yeah, that's good. Was she into sports, playing sports at all?
Not in high school. She might have played a little bit, but growing up doing the volleyball, soccer, stuff like that. So yeah, not nothing too crazy, but yeah,
she's
a good athlete.
That's I'd always wonder that because I don't know if those two kind of go in line with each other or if it just goes, because my wife and I are 100% opposites. I mean, she's a vegetarian and I'm a cattle farmer, if that doesn't get any different than that. But I always find out little bits and pieces about Shannon, like she played volleyball or she was skiing or doing something. And I'm like, why didn't we ever talk about this?
Yeah. We grew up, if you look, I mean, everyone's like, you bring up skiing. Yeah, we go skiing every year. We take the kids. A lot of the same things we did as a family, boating. Her dad always had a boat. They had a place on the river. My dad always had a boat. They'd go skiing. We'd go skiing. So a lot of the same things, ironically, just kind of, matched up.
Yeah. So you hit the mother load with the coolest father-in-laws ever, right? I mean, and that probably probably help you.
Tim was worth the price of admission. He was, he was something else, and just a piece of work, and funny, good guy. Stories, jokes, just anyone you talked to that knew him, knew of him, whatever. I mean, just lit up the room, and the stories could go on all night. And that's not even telling half of them.
Right.
So yeah,
the ones you're allowed to tell.
Exactly. Or the ones that you remember, or even the stuff that, he embellished, which he could do and you'd believe it.
Yeah.
And he probably believed it at that point too. But yeah, Tim was a stud and just a larger than life individual. So, yeah,
that's cool. That's cool. So how many years? So let's back up to Murphy Insurance. I mean, when did that start? And that was your dad? Was it
No,
it wasn't
grandpa.
Your grandpa?
Yeah.
Okay.
1955. My grandpa started Murphy Insurance Agency in Cheviot, Ohio. He was worked with the company maybe for Hartford Steam Boiler down in Lexington, which is where my dad was born. And, the stories that I remember was that, all the money was in the insurance was to own an insurance agency. And I don't think Grandpa had a couple nickels to his name or whatever, came back and started an agency and ended up buying a couple local ones down there. And he was just a good, I guess the best way to put it, one of the ladies that knew him well. And the name got brought up a number of times. He was just a prince of a guy. And back then, Grandpa used to, we had the little office in Cheviot, and he would walk to the post office every day to get the checks because, it was phone and mail at that point. And on his way, he'd stop down, downtown Cheviot, which everyone was, it was a little city in itself. And he'd stop and see all his customers. Bill Small from Small's Pro Hardware. He'd go to Stone's and eat breakfast. The accountant on his way down, and he'd walk down, get the mail, walk back. And and then, so he started it. And my dad, you'll find a similar timeline here. My dad worked in the insurance business, and he worked for Cincinnati Insurance. And then when my grandpa made the rule, you had to be 30 years old to come join the family business, which when you're 21 and want to make money, it's like, God, why did I have to wait so long?
Yeah.
But he was right. It was a great rule. So when Dad was 30, I was born in Bowling Green, Ohio. My dad was working for Cincinnati Insurance. Dad came back and joined the agency. And kind of the rest that kind of catapulted the company. Grandpa was a good guy, probably not the most salesiest guy, smart businessman. My dad took the agency to the next level with the sales and the knowledge that he had. And we got a Cincinnati insurance contract back then because Dad was, Dad had worked there, and all the people that ran the company back then liked him and wanted him to stay working there, whatever. So Dad did that, and then his brother joined. And we outgrew that spot, moved down to Harrison Avenue, outgrew that spot. And then, so I came back after my stint with Cincinnati Insurance Company after 7.5 years, after doing time. And I worked in Fairfield, then Lexington, Chicago, and then came back and joined the agency. And we've been growing ever since, adding people, adding companies and stuff like that.
What year did you get married? Were you married like when you're working in Lexington and Chicago?
Not Lexington. We got married in 2003. Okay. So I got married, or we were engaged. She kind of moved down, and right when we were getting married, they came to me and said, "We want you to consider." And Lexington was great. The people in Lexington were awesome, and I'd never want to leave. It put you that much closer to the lake. And, Friday afternoons, the phone never rang. You'd go into their office and, they'd want to know how you're doing. How's your girlfriend? How's your dog? You'd sit down for 15 minutes and how you doing? And they're sincere, just good people. And when I went to Chicago, you would think, oh man, you're going to a big metropolis. These guys are going to be, studs. And I can tell, I put my Lexington, Kentucky agents or my Central Kentucky agents against the Chicago guys any day of the week.
Really?
They were professional. They did business the right way. They worked on referrals. Just good people. So right when we were going to get married, Cincinnati Insurance came to me and said, we want you to consider Chicago. And it wasn't it was a promotion, but it was a bigger challenge, put it that way. And I wasn't so keen on it just because I liked where I was at, but, I'm glad I did it. She wanted to be up in Chicago and it was neat. Haven't been back, between the,
You saw it.
between the weather, and the traffic. There's all the amenities in the world.
When you say Chicago, is it like Cincinnati, Chicago? Like we're living on the outskirts, or were you in Chicago?
I was way up northwest suburbs, we were in Lake in the Hills, which was a tiny little community near Crystal Lake. So it was all the way out. I guess that was 90, past Schaumburg, I was closer to Wisconsin probably than I was downtown Chicago, but you still major. The suburbs in Chicago are just as big as the amenities in downtown Cincinnati.
Right.
So, it's just big all the way around and, traffic never stops, work never stops. It's a grind.
Nice.
So, yeah.
I think I'm so enamored with people's stories.
Yeah.
Especially like when you're bouncing around and jumping around. And I was wondering, the reason why I asked you that, I didn't know if like you were getting moved around and shipped around. It's a lot easier to do that when you're single.
Yeah.
But when you're married, now you have two people making a decision. Well, you have one person making a decision. Now you're following along somewhere else. And,
right.
And it probably makes it a little bit harder to make those transitions. But so you come back and join. I think that is an awesome rule to say that you got to be 30 years old before you could do that. I wish that they would do that in politics, and I wish they would do that for school teachers. I think that you've got to go out and learn to live in the public sector, live on your own, do different things, experience other experiences, and then come back and join the family business. And
Grandpa's rule, what I interpreted as what I think is right, was you got to go learn the business, exactly what you said. But at the same time, when you're 21, 22, 23, 24, how many people want to buy insurance from a guy that doesn't know anything about insurance or knows very little? And then at the same time, who you really going to be writing insurance for? Your buddies that aren't married yet in the bars acting up just like you were. How valuable of a quote unquote client is that? Yeah. Before you know the business, and it really, it's a great rule. And it when you tell people that, and all of a sudden the light goes off, they're like, man. He was kind of on the cutting edge, or he knew what he was doing when he did that. And whether he meant to do it that way or what, it helped me, working in the industry behind an underwriting desk is one thing, but getting out in the field, because I was a field underwriter and I'd go on, I had 15 or so agents that I'd call on, and you saw what successful agents were, played at all their country clubs, saw how they acted, saw how they treated their customers and how their operations ran. So not only did it teach you the nuts and bolts of insurance, but what made a successful insurance agent. Yeah. How they sold. So you could take more than just industry knowledge back and say, you know what, that guy in Lake Zurich, he had a great agency, and this is what made up his agency, and this is why he was successful. And that's how I want to do it. And then there was another guy that did something completely different. He had a good company background and this and that. And then there was a guy who did nothing but go through the yellow pages and cold call. And all he could sell was price. And that person that's going to sign up with you for a low price is going to leave you for a low price. So you could take the good, the bad, the ugly from these guys and really learn how to mold yourself, and translate it back into real life on what makes a good insurance agent or a successful businessman. So
that's a good transition into my next thought or question is, and I never put this stuff together when you're younger, but in my Builder 20 group, people were talking about, hey, listen, your insurance agent, your attorney, and your accountant, you guys need to have a meeting all together, once a quarter or something like that. Now, we obviously don't do that, but we talk a lot. And I never realized what a value that is, because insurance is something you don't know if you need it until you need it. And then you're like, oh shit, do I have it all?
Right.
But even at that, for a builder, and for everything that we do in general, it is so important. And it's so important to understand when you're building houses and you're in business, what does it cover and what doesn't it cover? And how that all works together, because you're talking about millions and millions and millions of dollars here. And if something goes awry and you don't have insurance, or you don't have the right insurance, you don't have the right agent that made sure that you had the right insurance, you're done. You're
out of business.
You're done. I mean, you're not just out of business.
You're broke.
I mean, it's like
they got everything.
It's like in Ocean's 11. He's like, they don't go to work on you. They'll take everything you got.
Everything.
Take your brother-in-law's tractor dealership. So
yeah, it's important.
Yeah, I mean, it's so important. So you and I'm fortunate as can be for you and I to be friends. But then it's so important for me to trust you, because I call you a lot of times and I'll send you emails and I'm like, I'm just sorry to blow you up, but I don't have a clue. I need your help. And you're just like, here it is. This is what it is.
That's what it is. And that's what it's all about. And, your business is building homes, selling people on homes, fixing, stuff, or answering. And you don't have time, that's enough time in itself. You don't need to worry about insurance and your accounting and stuff like that. So, that's what we do, and that's where we found our success.
I was going to ask you this, but I mean, it's basically a gamble. I mean, you could be an insurance junkie, right? I mean, you could have so much insurance and just to cover yourself. And health insurance is a classic example of that. You don't sell health insurance, but health insurance is a classic example of that. Sometimes I'm just like, you know what, the hell with it. I don't need that health insurance. I'll just pay. I'm paying for it on my own anyway, because this health insurance sucks. But we're talking about builder's risk insurance. We're talking about liability policies for the company, and then you get into the regular insurance for cars and that the normal stuff that people are normally dealing with. But then you get into insurance that I have to protect myself for things that I say, things that I do, whatever might go wrong. You have to form a corporation, so it's protected by insurance in the corporation and not you personally, because you do business with people who are. It happens that way. And it goes right on down the line. So I could just max myself out and pay crazy amount of money all year long for this crazy insurance just in case I need it. Or you can balance and walk the line, or you can just never have enough. You can do the minimum. Like you can go to the general and get some car insurance.
Yeah. No, don't want to do that. But we try and walk the line of what we see, what you need, but not. I mean, at some point, some things kind of suck.
Yeah.
And you're going to catch something at some point that might not be covered, and trying to minimize those exposures or opportunities, but keep you covered without spending too much and being insurance poor. You're never going to be. Insurance does not cover everything.
Right.
If it covered everything, it'd be one page. Everything's covered. Well, that's not the case. We live in a litigious society. There's attorneys that make tons of money, exposing, loopholes, so on and so forth.
Yeah.
But, fun stuff.
What makes you want to be in this circle instead of doing health insurance, instead of doing life insurance, instead of doing some of this other stuff? What makes you want to do just this? Is this the way the company was set up, or is this what or?
It's what I was brought in. It's just kind of the way it went, coming into the insurance industry, but it's a great industry to be in. The thing that drives me is being an athlete, being competitive, same as you like to sell. And selling, you make a sale, it's a win. Do I like claims? No, but ultimately, if we didn't have claims, we'd have nothing to sell. So twofold, the competitiveness, liking to win, helping people out. Helping people out goes another stretch when something bad happens and the claim goes well, or something that they couldn't afford. All of a sudden, there's insurance that pays for it and puts them back together, and they're off and running in a car, house, business, whatever it might be. Someone's hurt, heaven forbid. There's some gratitude in that as well. So
and I said this before, but I mean, it's got to be really tough for anybody. I mean, I think that there's state laws that say you have to have this kind of insurance for if you're going to drive a car or something like that. How difficult is it for just a regular person to understand insurance, especially when again, like I said, we've got to be tight. We've got to be talking all the time. And there's so many, my insurance that you send me, you used to print it out. Now we just get it emailed. But I mean, it was like 900 pages deep. And you're like, even if I read all this shit, I wouldn't know what it means.
Yeah, it's tough. But I mean, the average consumer, whether it be personal or commercial, unless there's just someone that's a bookworm, has a legal insurance background, the average consumer doesn't understand it. They're trusting you. And it depends what they want. You know, when you're starting out in the insurance business, I mean, I'm one step above a used car salesman. I mean, oh God, here comes the insurance guy. So, I mean, you gotta earn people's trust. You gotta have a good reputation, and then you gotta deliver on it. You know, one bad claim, one bad, sale or whatever, people aren't happy. People talk. So your reputation is everything.
Well, I think too that your business is a lot like our business. You know, when people have a bad experience, then, one bad insurance agent makes the whole business crooked. I mean, they're all just disgustingly crooked. We grew up with a guy who was related to us who was in the insurance business, and he was the crookedest piece of shit, still is piece of shit you've ever seen in your life. And so then you're like, well, that's what this business is made of. And then, you and I become friends, and we're like, oh, I guess it's not what that's made of. But I think that our customers come in the door a lot of times, and they're wanting to build a house, but they're toes in only, I mean, they're just there. Do I really want to do that? I mean, do I want to talk to you? And they're just waiting for the scam to come up, like, what's your deal? And sometimes it's like that. And you just have to talk them through it and understand that not everybody's horrible.
Right. I mean, you've got a lot of the same character people that are in your industry that are in ours, and builders. You've got a great reputation, but there's a lot of them that don't.
Right.
They still get the deal. And there's all the horror stories out there. Oh, you got screwed by this guy, and then out of business, and no one will call, no one will come back and fix it. So it's the same deal for you. You're selling your reputation and your years of business, family business.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So what is it that, how do you assess, when you're looking at a customer, I mean, you kind of do the same thing we do. You have to look at them and say, are you going to, can we take you on? I mean, do you have too much risk? What's the risk assessment that you do with a customer when they need insurance, and I come to you and I say, hey, I need some insurance? What are you doing to figure out if you can even insure them?
Usually you can insure just about anyone. It's a matter of what price it's going to be. Today's market's a little bit different, but do they want to quote? Are they just looking for a low price, or do they want to do business with you? And I'm fortunate, at this stage in the game where, I know if they're serious or not. Do you want to do business or not? And I just shoot them straight. Like, look, I think, if I can cut 10 grand out of this, or are you going to are you going to be a customer? Are you going to take the insurance? And if they say, yeah, then it's on. Or what kind of pain are you feeling? Is the guy not calling you back? Are you happy with the company, but not happy with the guy? I just find out why are we talking?
Right.
What are we here for? Yeah. And, if it's, I'm a pretty good read of people, and if it's just some shyster he's burned the two companies prior to that, I don't need any more headaches. Yeah. So, what we're looking for today is people that need help, people that trust you and want to buy from you, and they're on the same page. They want insurance, and they want to do it the right way. I'm not here to do anything underhanded or underinsure you or whatever, because I got to be the other guy on the other end of the phone, delivering a good, bad message, whatever. And same in your business. You wake up in the middle of the night all the time. You don't need any more of those. I got enough problems. I don't need any more. Right. So it's just about finding the right fit and good opportunities and selecting them and, going forward with them.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to say the same thing on the other side as a customer. What makes them want to come to Murphy Insurance? What gets them to an insurance agent? Kind of the same thing you were talking about is, are you quoting? Are you serious? Or something's driving that in order to get them in the door with you? Yep.
It's the same as you. It's referrals. I mean, it's people said good things about you, or it's people want to be with some of the companies that you're with because they've heard good things, that they're a good, fair company to pay claims. And a lot of that is, based on our hometown insurance company, Cincinnati Insurance, we're kind of just a microcosm of how they operate, because, we're all basically inbred with the way that, my dad, myself, my brothers worked for him. The guys I got working for me worked for him. So we just kind of operate under that principle, and they're a great partner, and they're a great local company, insurance company. So
I think people, I remember when we first bought our farm, and when you have something like that, it drives you only in a certain direction. So there's only bankers that would give us a farm loan.
Yep.
And the same thing with insurance. There's only, certain insurance companies that would insure cows and farm equipment and implements, and then plus the liability on the ground. And, if an animal gets out and, all those kind of
causes
things.
a wreck or something.
Yeah. It's just probably a higher risk. And so I think that probably drives people in a certain direction. You go to the general for car insurance, and you're like, hey, I need farm insurance too. And they're like, we don't do farm.
We don't do that. They barely do car insurance, but
I keep thinking that the general does stupid ass commercials probably, but
they're marketing.
That's one thing we don't see from Murphy Insurance is a gimmick commercial.
We don't.
Do you have an emu?
No, we don't. We don't have any. We don't have jingles. We don't have mascots. We do local advertising in the communities and churches and stuff that we're involved with, whether it be high school, grade school, whatever. And we truly just work on word of mouth referrals and being, I guess, what you would call pillars in the community. Yeah. Try to be, at least.
Well, it's that West Side thing. I mean, anybody knows it's in Cincinnati. It's a West Side, East Side thing, and it's not like the suits and the greasers, But I mean, it's like the West Side, East Side. It's just where people live, and that's where they're going to stay. But when you're embedded in that community, especially when you're in LaSalle or you're in one of those, not nice, but it's a private school, but it's a connected community school where everybody that goes there, they have a loyalty to it. They continually come back. They're constantly giving back to the community. It's like you guys really have it going on over there, and that probably helps you a lot. It's
tight knit, and not to say we don't stretch over to the east side, up to the north and down to the south, but being in your community is where it all starts, and it's grassroots, as you well know.
I mean, that's another point. You think about how many people have multiple residences, and they have them in other states, and you're dealing with them in Cincinnati. Can you insure them in Colorado? Can you insure them in Florida? And do you want to? Do you understand that market? Sometimes it's crazy.
Yeah, it can be tougher, but we've got stuff all over the board. And we get in with a couple of these nice businesses, and as long as they're in the states that we're licensed in, and sometimes we go get licensed for those states just for them. But we've grown quite a bit, and we've got a pretty big footprint. It's one of those deals where sometimes you never say no. Yeah. To try and go that distance for a customer, to get a customer, and if it makes sense, do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So what your license is it when we have some of our license, we don't carry a license, but like an electrician, you can have a license to install, but then you also have to have a master's. And then when you're a realtor, you have a real estate license, but you have to have a broker's license. Is that the same thing with you? Do your agents have to be licensed, and then you have to have a broker's license to be able to sell it?
No, the agency has a license. So there's basically two licenses. The agency's got to be licensed, and it's, you start off in the state you're domiciled in, which would be Ohio. So the agency's licensed, and each individual agent is licensed in that state. And then when it goes past that, it's considered a non-residence license. So you got to go on to the Department of Insurance for each of those and get a Kentucky one. It's usually, all the fees are different depending on who's running the Department of Insurance for whatever. So then we got someone in North Carolina. So the agency's got to go get a license in North Carolina, and I got to go get a non-residence license. And that's a bit much to keep up. They're probably $100 a piece, or some of them might be $300. And it's annual, or I think it's 3 years. But we do, to comply with the states and their laws, we have to have different licenses, but it's only basically to sell property and casualty insurance, which is, a wide variety of products. It's everything that we do, the home auto business.
What's the point of the license? I mean, are they just tracking you for taxing purposes, or are they just trying to make sure you're legit, or?
Yeah, that you're legit, and you've answered to questions, that you're not a felon and you don't have any negative financial stuff out there. You're not you're not fleeing the country, or you don't have a bad rap or whatever. So it's a couple innocuous boxes to check, similar to renewing your driver's license and stuff like that.
So as Murphy Insurance carries a license, and you get an agent that goes out there and does something awry, just something crooked, does that affect your license, or does it affect their license?
It could do both.
Yeah.
And there's we have to carry separate insurance called errors and omissions. So we screw up, and I know that you've got some sort of exposure, and I don't say, hey, you need to buy insurance for that. And all of a sudden you have a claim, and it's like, oh, why didn't you tell me that? And it's like, well, he didn't do his job or whatever. Screw something up that ultimately ends up in a lawsuit. Knock on wood, we haven't had little to no run-ins with that. But an agent does sell something and screw something up, it adversely affects you, just as you screwing up a house, whether it be Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, wherever it might be.
Well, I mean, we don't have license, and licensing has been tried to be pushed onto builders for years and years and years, probably as long as I've been alive. And we're against it because we're against government regulation, more government regulation. We have plenty of regulation, but you know how it is when the government gets their foot in the door. They're like, we just want you to have a license. I'm like, why? Well, we want to make sure that you're a good person. I'm like, well, my dog's got a license too, but he'll probably rip your head off. You know, I mean, I think that's something that we don't want to allow. I don't care if I have a license or not. I don't really care, but I don't want this to grow from me having a little card that says Jeff the Builder, as opposed to, you know, now you have a license, you're going to pay taxes on it. And if you screw this house up, we take your license away and you can never build houses again. That gets to be pretty risky.
Yeah. I don't know enough about, your business as far as what the government regulations would be. But in ours, I guess the only thing I could say is they've already got their hand in it, because they have to, each state's got different regulations. They have to approve the company's forms, the rates, so on and so forth. So they're already in it. So it's an easy crossover to make the people selling it get licensed since they're already in it. So it's regulation, as I'm sure you love. Oh, we have the same feelings about it.
Yeah, it's a pain in the ass. I got 4 jobs right now that we'd be under roof with, and we can't even get permits on it because of some guy doesn't like the way the dash lines are on the paper that we turned in. It's just ridiculous. But nonetheless, so moving away from business insurance and you move into like homeowners insurance, and I've heard this before from people who were in fires or people who were in tornadoes and different things, that you should go through your entire house with a video camera and open every drawer and video everything and take pictures of everything and make sure that you are completely covered, because, you know, something's going to happen with your insurance. Is there any truth to that? Or do you feel like, hey man, you're covered? Don't.
It's not a bad idea. Are people really going to do it every year?
Right.
Probably not. Usually in our neck of the woods, they're not total losses. I mean, the house might be a total loss, but an insurance company can go, the fire department's going to get there. An insurance company can go in and say, and they can see that, you know, you had this nice, you know, grand piano that is still there, but it's not there anymore. That the way of life that you led, the clothes, the shoes, the couches, the TVs, they got a pretty good idea of what you had.
Yeah.
And probably aren't going to question it, or they are going to question it because they know that your couch was 17 years old and, you know, has cigarette holes in it or whatever. So never really had a problem with that. The contents limit on a homeowner policy is 75% of what the dwelling is. Usually it's way more than anyone ever wants or has. It could get a little bit dicey with your valuables, which you usually want to schedule those separate. The rings, the jewelry, the fine arts, stuff like that, those are higher ticket items rather than, you know, just a flat screen TV or, you know, furniture from Pottery Barn. I mean, you can get that pretty easily at a somewhat decent rate. But when it's collectibles, when it's expensive diamonds, earrings, and stuff like that, those are things that should be scheduled and accounted for separately, and they're usually listed out. Personally, I've never gone through my house, and if it's 1 out of 1,000 people that have said that they thought about it or they did, no one's ever sent me a zip drive or a video of everything they have. And
here's me putting this $3 million into my safe right now.
Yeah.
And I'm going to lock it.
Yeah. Yeah. I haven't had any of those, but I've never really had any problems if and when something like that does happen, of people getting shorted or not getting made whole out of what their contents are.
If I have a $500,000 house, can I insure it for $1 million and then it burns down and I get the $1 million, or is it market value?
It's still going to be what the replacement cost is. So it's going to be what it's going to cost to rebuild a 3,000 square foot 2-story house with a finished basement. And if that takes it up to $1.5 million, well, then yeah, you're in good standing. If it's under that, then we have a real problem.
Right.
Today's market, cost of materials, what you guys are, what people are paying for labor and materials, or what the laborers and materials costs, is a real challenge.
Do you think the insurance companies keep up with that well enough to say the money's here? This is what, like right now, everybody's worried about these tariffs and the hurricanes coming through and wiping things out. It's going to drive the price of lumber. And then we got an insurance job right now that we're getting ready to rebuild. And have they taken that into consideration?
It's definitely on their radar. That being said, it's still a struggle. Some do. Some are way higher than what they think. Some are more conservative and some are low. It's definitely on their radar because they're the ones that are getting in a pickle if and when they're short. But it's tough. I mean, if you thought you had something insured, a couple of years ago at, $200 a square foot, I mean, that needle moved 3 times in the calendar year, whether it was something down. I remember the price of pipe went up overnight because they had freezing storms down in Houston, and that's where all the plastic came for the PVC.
That's right.
And all of a sudden the price, went from 150 to 200 to 250 in the blink of an eye for cost per square foot. So even if you were dead nuts right on it in September, doesn't mean a year from now or 9 months from now that you were still in the ballpark. So there's ways to, there's enhancements and stuff to protect you against that. Costs extra to do it, but
is that the same thing? And when I was selling boats with loaders, and they'd always sell that gap insurance. Can you buy gap? You wouldn't want to buy gap insurance on a house because most of the time real estate's always improving. But is that sort of the same thing?
Gap insurance comes into more play with the boats and the cars. With us, there's usually an enhancement, whether you can do a guaranteed replacement cost. So whatever it is. You can say if that house is $500,000, we put a 25% enhancement on there. Something happens, we've got 25%. That's easier than insuring it for $750 if you think it's closer to $500. So it's kind of a cover your butt.
Yeah.
That if something happens or you're off, that thing's going to make them whole via a enhancement. So similar type concept, but going up rather than going down with the boats and the cars.
Yeah. Gap insurance is, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's if something happens to the boat and you paid $50,000 for it and it's only worth $30 right now, the gap is that $20,000 that's in between there and you're covered on it.
It's gaps usually to cover the loan.
Okay.
So if you owe 40 on it, and you're only getting 30 for it, it's to cover the loan, not the actual cost.
That makes more sense on them crooks that
cover the banks. But.
Yes, I get that. The bank is always covered. The bank is the house, by the way, and they're always
correct.
Covered. So, made me think about you, and we got that job from you a couple years ago. We over on the west side, that in their house burnt down. And I've been through this multiple times with these people, and it's a different emotion when we're going through to build these people's house than it is to build somebody's house from scratch. And I mean, they're already upset. They're horrified, upset, and they've been traumatized. But we were walking through that house, and he had some collectibles in there, and he had a Nicky Van Exel jersey signed by Nick Van Exel. And well, who knows what it's worth, but something like that specifically, you would have to say, I have this jersey, and this is what it's insured for. Or he had a number of other collectibles in there that was worth a lot more than that. But I'm like, man, it's gone. I mean, there's nothing you can do about it.
It's gone, and sometimes it doesn't even matter how much money you're going to get from it because you're not going to replace that. It's kind of like when grandma gave the daughter a ring or whatever. It's like, it's more the memory than anything. So it's tough.
It is tough. That is tough. So I'm not sure how much more we can talk about insurance. What have we not covered about insurance?
Buddy, I think we've hit on most of it, but I'm happy to answer any more that you got.
I don't know.
I don't want you to fall asleep.
I'm not falling asleep. I enjoy it. I can sit here talking to you all day long. I like to learn more about your person. I think that this is the coolest thing about this podcast, and I say it every single episode, every single time for the third year in a row, is that the coolest thing about this thing is I learn more about people. Even though people I've known like you forever and really close with, I learn something new about you. I learn more things about you, so I think it's really fun to be able to do that. But I also think it's cool that other people get to see in you what I see in you, and they can hear it, and maybe maybe they'll come out and buy some insurance from you.
There you go.
You know, with all of the WB Download listeners are going to go to Murphy Insurance, and it's going to be cool. So let's talk about, and just real quick, LaSalle. I mean, you know, this is I grew up in Ross, and so it's a public school, and most people, all they could talk about was getting out of there someday. And they didn't, and some people were like, hey, I'm going to stay there. I love it. And that's what they're going to do. LaSalle and Elder and Moeller and Baden and all of these schools, they're so tight. I mean, they're so tight. They do these things, and people continue to come. It's like a college. They come back, and they're like alumni. They're doing things for the school. They're doing things for the community, and they keep coming back. What do you think? What do you think drives that? Is it the religion, or is it the community? Is it the school, or what makes that?
I guess it's the way of life. Yeah, it's the way of life. Most of the kids that are going to these parochial high schools, they're not the first one. Their parents went through it. That's how they were raised. And then you get in the school, and that's the values that they're teaching you is, I guess, those Christian values and giving back. And, you know, that they don't have the public money that the public schools have. So, you know, they're old schools. Enough, you know, you got the St. X's of the world, still an old school, but they've got, you know, tons of money, great facilities, so on and so forth. You know, Elder, LaSalle, not as, you know, prestigious or glamorous as X, but inside that building, they've got some special people that have chosen almost a public servant route because that's what they believe in, and it's special to them, or they just flat out like it. And it's just a big family. And it even goes past just the four walls of that school. You know, when we competed against Elder, I mean, you hated them. You hated X. You wanted to beat them. You didn't like them. They were rich kids, whatever. You know, but once you're done, the camaraderie for LaSalle and Elder guys is fine.
Yeah.
You know, we're in the same boat. We're from the same. It's the same product for the most part. You know, I roomed with a St. X guy in college that played football with me.
Yeah.
And everyone, it's just a common ground that you guys all have. And it's the same values that you were taught, that we were brought up with, whether you had brothers or priests, nuns, even back in grade school teaching you. And it's just kind of the similar way of life that everyone went through. And, you know, when you don't have the public money and you're relying on donors, you see that, hey, so-and-so did this so that we could have this. And so-and-so, I mean, you know, Drew Neiman.
Yeah.
LaSalle never had a stadium. I mean, guys like that, him and, you know, the Hugh DePauls of the world came together, and literally, whether it was with money or their own hands, built the stadium, some of these things. And that's all over the place. And that's at Elder, that's at X, that's at Roger Bacon, Moeller. I mean, that's just the way of life is the only real answer I can give it. I'm sure there's someone out there smarter than me that can give a more scientific method to it. But it's just, you know, I learned it from Grandpa was an Elder guy. Dad was a LaSalle guy. I watched the stuff that Dad did for LaSalle growing up. I watched Dad running the sports stag, giving back, all those things. And it's just what I know. Yeah. So, and there's a lot of other people out there same way.
And I think the sports stag has probably put you guys on the map.
Yeah.
Brian Murphy and the Nab family and the sports stag. But that is a deal. I mean, I think that a lot of people do it, but nothing like LaSalle does it. And I mean, they get amazing people to come and speak. If you want to find out what's going on over there on the west side, on whatever the night that is, I mean, everybody's there.
Everyone's there. And it's all walks of life. It's all, you know, it's not just LaSalle guys. It's people from everywhere.
Yeah.
And they do a great job. And the guys that were, you know, from the very beginning, they kicked it off and they did it right and continue to do it. And it's a machine. And they just do a good job. And it's a great event for everybody.
I think it's cool that when you made that comment about when you get out of school, all of a sudden you look at these other guys who were your competitors and you're like, hey, you know, one of the cool things that I was in the who's who of high school sports, got invited to something and somehow or another we had to meet and then we all had to ride the bus together. So the guys that I was playing against, the season was over probably at that point, we all had to ride the bus together. And I remember hating these guys' guts. I mean, most of the time because they were probably kicking my ass or something, but I mean, they were fierce competitors. And now all of a sudden I'm sitting on a bus with them and we're talking about who knows what, and we're all having the best time. And you realize that they're normal people. Like they're just like us,
Same deal.
And,
Same people.
And most of it in the Fort Ancient Valley Conference, we were all hillbillies. So we were all hillbillies sitting on a bus, and it's like, this guy's a hillbilly just like me.
Yeah, this is cool. I thought I was the only one. Yeah.
And I do the same thing now. I mean, I've run into guys that I was at a Home Rama event, and this guy comes up to me and he says, "Hey man, he's such and such, and he's got this sells grills and fireplaces and these other things. Just started up his company." And somehow or another, we start talking, and I played football against him. He went to Little Miami, and I went to Ross, and we played football literally against each other because I was a defensive lineman and he was an offensive lineman. And all of a sudden, it was like, "Hey, you remember this guy? You remember this guy?" And it was just really like almost like an alumni from Ross because we were catching up with each other. So I hope kids realize that. And Baden was one of our big rivals, and now it's like when you meet somebody from Baden, it's just like a homecoming because we were all from the same town.
Oh yeah, it's neat, and it's you meet someone that played in your era, regardless where they're at. Next thing you know, I mean, they're good. They're not a stranger, and you might not know anything about them, but you know this, and you're going to connect and figure out who they knew and who their dad was and whatever. And next thing you know, you're drinking beer and having a good time with them.
That's exactly that brings more people together.
Yeah.
And what do you think your kids are going to want to be in? Have you ever had those conversations yet that they want to be in the insurance business, or you want them to go do something else?
I want them to do whatever they want, just like anyone says. My son, Brennan, it's clicking with him far more than when I used to.
Yeah.
And he just sees, be driving down the street, or you insure them? How you know this guy? So it's clicking. He doesn't know the first thing about homeowner insurance or anything like that, but he gets the big picture. And I think it's clicking, and he probably would want to go down that path. If he doesn't, so be it. Find something else to do, whatever makes you happy. But I could see him wanting to do the same thing.
That's a cool way to look at it, is that they're not looking at it on the business side of it. They're looking at it on a relationship side of it. They see you talking to all these people and, cracking up, cutting up, having a good time, being happy around them, having relationships. And I think kids can look at that and be like, man, that's really cool. All these people. And then they start thinking, what do you do for a living?
Yeah. And there's certain places you go and it's like, why we go there, Dad?
Yeah.
Well, they're a customer.
Yeah.
They pay me, and we support them. And so that's clicking with him, which is huge. So
I tell my kids all the time, I'm like, because we get, when we were at the Xavier game a couple of weeks ago, and together, you and I and our kids, and I'm like, you're the most spoiled kid I've ever seen in my life. It was cold when we were walking up to the door, and we ran into some people we went to church with, and she's like, "Where'd you guys park at?" And I'm like, "We parked right there." Like, it's like 30 feet from the door because you gave us those passes. And she's like, "Oh my gosh, we parked all the way on like 3 miles away." And I told Cody, I'm like, you have no idea what it's like to be in this world, to not have these huge benefits from knowing people that get us really cool things.
Oh yeah. And it wasn't, and the world's obviously changed, but we didn't have that back then.
No.
Yeah, it's a different world.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It is. Well, man, like I said, we could sit here and talk all day. I didn't even offer you, it's the middle of the day. We probably could have drank beer and we could have been here for a couple of hours.
It'd be the longest, but get another disc out there.
I'm just grateful, man. I'm grateful. Like I said, in our Builder 20 group, these guys talk about their insurance agents and talk about these other people, and most of them are going, "I don't have that. I don't have that." And I'm like, I'm raising my hand. I'm like, I got it. I got that. And it's super helpful. I trust you with everything that we've got. I need to know about insurance, but I don't need to know everything because I'm working with you and have that relationship. So you've been an awesome friend, an awesome partner on this team. So thanks for taking time out of your day to come up here and do this. I know you're probably sitting there twiddling your thumbs with nothing.
No, my thumbs are sitting here touching, but they're not twiddling. So it beats sitting in front of that computer watching emails roll in. Yeah, so no, we're good, man.
Right on, man. Thanks for being here. I appreciate it. Everybody, this is Ryan Murphy with Murphy Insurance here on the WB Download. Well, all right, everybody, there you have it. As I said, leading up to that interview, that it was going to be awesome with Ryan, and I just cannot thank him enough for taking time out of his day. He's a very, very busy person. I should note something I didn't talk about at the beginning, but Ryan and I try and do lunch. We used to do it like once a month. Now we do it like once a quarter, but we try and do lunch once a quarter just to catch up. The conversation just takes off and goes wherever. But we are friends, and but we also have a very distinct purpose in each other's lives to do business wise, and I just can't thank him enough. He's just an awesome dude, and thanks for all of his guidance. I want to thank the audience for listening today. Thanks for being here as always. Without you, we wouldn't have this podcast. And in the next episode, I am hoping that we will have this put together. Now, is my mom, Sue Whelan, will be on the podcast, and my brother and I will be interviewing my mom. So it's going to be me, my brother Mike Whelan, and my mom Sue Whelan on our next podcast in light of Mother's Day. And my mom is one of the coolest people you ever meet. So we really want to find out from her what it's been like in her life, what it was like to work in this business for all those years, and what it was like to work with her husband in this business. And truthfully, she's the one that ran the deal. My dad, he didn't do anything. He just kind of drove around, looked at job sites, and she was the one running the thing. I'm just kidding. That's a joke. But really, it's going to be a fun podcast to have both of those guys here with me doing the download. So again, thanks Ryan for being here, man. You rocked it as always, and I just enjoyed, especially that first part of the interview, talking about his scholarship, talking about playing football and going to University of Illinois, and what that process was like back in the day, specifically before smartphones, before Twitter and Facebook, and what it was like to have a coach who really backed you up and made that deal happen is really neat to hear. So, hey, don't forget to subscribe to the WB Download on your favorite podcast service. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and see all of the things that we have going on. And don't forget that we drop on the second and fourth Tuesdays of every month. And if you want to be part of the conversation, and if you want to check us out at Whelan Builders, but if you want to be part of the conversation, check us out at WBDownload at WhelanBuilders.com, and check us out at WhelanBuilders.com on our website to see all the cool houses we're going to be. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that we have a new dude on staff here, and his name is Jake Emerson, and Jake is just an awesome guy. He is now Jake from Whelan Builders, and he started here about a week ago, I guess it was, and he's just killing it, just knocking it down right now. And I'm just so excited to have him here, and looking forward to things that come from Jake Emerson here. Jake at Whelan Builders. That's what we're looking for. Hey, everybody, thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to hearing from you, hearing from us. Looking forward to you hearing from us next time here on the WB Download.